It is now live. Hey guys, John Gums here with Dakota Grappler. Just straighten out my wrestling hat, all my wrestling gear, coming to you on a Wednesday night on Facebook Live. We have two South Dakota coaches right now joining us. We got Scott Andall from McCook Central, and you probably say Salem. And then you got Sean Lewis there, down there in the green, wearing the governor's uniform stuff, and bringing you the Pierhead wrestling coach. We're going to talk some wrestling tonight. This is our second episode of Dakota Grappler Coaches Live, Coach's Corner. And I'm hoping you guys, there's a little chat on the far side. And I'm hoping if there's some people have some questions along the way, eventually we will utilize that mechanism. And we will also just have fun and talk wrestling. We kind of in the back scenes, both of us have talked. I talked to Scott and then I talked to Sean. And these guys are great ambassadors of the sport of wrestling, and I'm happy to talk to them tonight. So I'm going to start off and let them introduce themselves. I'll start with Sean Lewis, and returning, 2 years in a row state champs, and have
3 years.
3 years. Oh my, that's
You've been spoiled.
Yeah, been spoiled. And you also have 3 returning state champs and a lot of returning points. I'll let you introduce yourself. And in this introduction, you know, it's kind of crazy, but it is Thanksgiving. I want you to probably, within your introduction, if possible, now this is asking a lot, say something what you're thankful for wrestling, somewhere in that, if that's good enough. And put a little pressure on you. Okay, fire away.
All right, Sean Lewis, Pierhead wrestling coach. I've coached a couple of other different places. I was for 3 years. Before that, I was at Elk Point Jefferson, coaching in Class B. I wrestled at Northern State University for 5 years, and Bonham High School down in Tyndall, Tabor, and Springfield, and is where I'm from. Definitely thankful for wrestling because I quite frankly don't know what I would actually be doing. I wouldn't have got into education without wrestling. I kind of do teaching and coaching. Just simply by going to Northern State University, and got there and thought I knew what I wanted to do, and then didn't really know what I wanted to do. And the one thing that's kind of been consistent since I've been 5 years old is, and wrestling starts to warm up, and it's kind of got me to where I'm at. So definitely thankful just for the whole sport and where it's brought me to be.
Well, that's great. Okay, now Mr. Scott Andall, I've known you since the first time I ever coached in North Dakota. I saw the crazy guy jumping in the corner. So I expect some energy out of you tonight. What can you say? Introduce yourself. Tell the people out there about you, your program, and what you might be thankful for.
Well, yes, Scott Handel from McCook Central, Montrose, and I've done this for, I guess this is my big award this year, 25 years. And yes, I did have a privilege to have Sean Lewis all-star team back in, I think, 2001 or 2 back in the day. And I guess I'm excited about our season. We have a lot of kids back, and we have a state runner-up from 2 years ago who tore up his knee in football, and he's going to be back on the mat this season, and probably definitely our team leader. And thankful, well, I'm thankful for my wife putting up with me for 25 years and chasing me around on the mat when I wrestled in high school, and now chasing me around as a coach.
Well, that's pretty cool. Give her a little shout out. I tell you what, my wife puts up with a lot with me too, so I know what you're talking about. Okay, now I'm going to get a subject going right away here that we can talk about: rules. And I know this is a touchy subject for some people, but for some reason, wrestling, you know, as soon as we get used to something, they decide to change, and sometimes for the better, sometimes for not. But I want to talk about some of the pinning rules. Now, I don't even understand them completely. I was at a duel last night, and I was going to swear that referee was going to pin a kid out of bounds with everything else being in, and he blew it out of bounds, and a couple coaches went nuts, but then the fans, they had no clue that possibly could be a pin. So, and then the other thing I'd like to talk about is uniform changes. Mentioned this before. I have seen it in North Dakota, and I'll talk about that as it goes. Any of you have your first opinions on, let's go to that pinning rule. If anybody wants to shout out on basically on how you understand the pinning rule is supposed to work on the edge of the mat.
Well, it's kind of different with you still have to have your toes in for a takedown, but yet you have to have supporting points or your knees for back points. So basically, you could have your hip down, my understanding, and the other opponent can be hanging out of bounds, or your opponent can be put in, his hip down, he's exposed his back, and you get near fall, and if possible, you could pin him.
Okay. Is that what you understand it, Sean?
Yeah, like we were talking when we were off air earlier, I actually just got done. I went to the regional wrestling officials meeting, just got done with that about a half hour before we got on, and that was talked about is, you know, they took the toes as, you know, out of supporting points. And so, I mean, if you have a butt cheek or a thigh in bounce, you know, that counts, or your knees have to be down, which is going to make coaching a little bit interesting because you always tell kids to be on their toes, but toes aren't, you know, they're not a supporting point. And so you got to kind of contradict yourself, tell them to get on their knees. You know, I think it's going to be interesting and how it's going to be called and how you're going to see it. I think it's going to be different. We'd actually talked a little bit about how there's some states who are actually deviating this rule, and they're including the toes as supporting points. They've got confirmation that South Carolina deviated, and they are using the toes as supporting points, just to get that out of there, because there's a little bit of uncertainty of, you know, even from an official's perspective, am I supposed to be looking for? Yeah, I can kind of see, but am I supposed to be looking for the fall or whether they're on their knees? Or I think there's definitely going to be some confusion as the year progresses and how it's called.
Now, one of the things that I worried about when I heard the rule is, you know, we don't have 4 sets of eyes out on every mat, you know, or 2 sets or whatever you want to say. You know, having 2 referees in every match, you might have it at the state tournament where you could have somebody watching the knees or the toes, but you're looking for the fall. You're sometimes right underneath those scapulas and on the back side. Your objectivity is not there. You're looking if the person's in an illegal hold. You're looking at the person if the scapulas are touching. You're looking at, you know, so many different things. If somebody's getting hurt, let alone you got to look back at a different location because you don't pin them on their butt. The feet are on the totally other side of where people are wrestling. I completely agree with the way you guys are saying. It's kind of a tough rule to initiate this year. I got a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how the rule develops. From talking with our activities association head guys, when they were writing this rule, the group that came up with it spent, you know, 2+ hours trying to go through this rule and make sure that it was right. And you know, and then I think we see it as coaches, and we're hoping maybe they should have spent another hour on it, clarifying a few things. But you know, I think it's one that we're going to have for the year, and it's going to develop, and then, you know, hopefully the NFHS looks at it again and to, you know, over the summer make some improvements on it and really clarify what is supporting points and what isn't, because I think it's also really tough for an official. It puts them in kind of an awkward situation as well.
I look back to the freestyle years when you used to be able to be on the edge of the mat, and if your back was touching, if you touched your head, they considered the head as being out of bounds, but not your shoulders. They changed that in the freestyle several years ago, where, you know, if you did a high bridge, they blow it. You're laying on the side of the mat, they would say, hit your head, and, you know, not, whoop, you're out of bounds. So I'm not too sure how they're going to handle this yet, and so it was interesting. I definitely last night, a Mandan kid could have been pinned early in the duel. He was on his back, and the guy was driving, and he had him actually in a cradle. You know how you tell him on an inside cradle head and on your toes driving? Kid was still on his knees. He pulled him in and sucked him in underneath, and next thing you know, you're going, oh, man, that could be a pin, and whoop, out of bounds, and no back points even. So it was kind of quick. It's interesting. It's like they want them to be in – are the heels considered – did they say anything about that? Let's say you're in a headlock and you're turning them backwards. Is a heels considered a supporting point versus the toes?
Yeah, anything that's they told us last week, anything that's heels, toes, hip, that kind of thing is in. So you could possibly pin somebody like that. And we had that. I talked to you last night. We had that referees clinic here in Salem last Friday night. and they went through everything. And the biggest question came up is to get your toes down, knees up for the takedown. Can I just drop my knees and start scoring near fall? A lot of refs were confused on it.
Yep. So if you drop your knees, they can start the count. Is that correct? Even though they're not considered out of bounds until you. So then if you, I'm guessing they'll start the count if the knees go down. Is that?
Knees go down. Yeah.
Okay.
But now nationally, I watched some videos, and they're saying that toes in, and then they continue. They try to drop the knees, that they'll just go take down back in the middle.
Okay.
But other refs said if they reposition, like you said, you kind of jerk them in, drop your knees after you got the takedown, then they start counting near fall.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I'm hoping that clears some things up for those people out there, and spread it out there. Hey, if anybody's watching out there, make sure you guys give it a little thumbs up and also share this to people. Tell people more about this. I know we just got a few people watching, and people watch the replay this later, but I want people to get into the comments and stuff as we go. Next, now I talked with Scott a little bit about uniforms. I wanted to talk just a little bit about that again. Now, what I've seen in North Dakota, the interpretation of the rule is still allowing. Now, this is North Dakota still allowing fighting shorts where they're baggy, and I pretty much object to it. But I've only seen this now twice at the junior high level, and they're wearing shorts that look like they're basketball players. So that's one thing that, they're really baggy. And the way I interpret the rule is they still should be kind of form-fitting, not necessarily complete spandex or compression. But what do you guys see? If you think this will happen anywhere in South Dakota? Or not?
I mentioned last night, we were in the middle of ordering new uniforms, and we debated, would we gain kids by ordering the two-piece? We looked at it. I left it up to my kids, and they all came consensus. They were like the singlet, so we stuck with the singlet. But I do see some teams going to the two-piece.
Mm-hmm. I did mention too when we were talking that if it got another wrestler out or got more wrestlers out, I would support it, because that it's hard enough to wrestle in the sport, and somebody then is embarrassed to go out there because maybe something's falling out or sticking out or whatever it is, where maybe at that junior high level that it might attract more. So that's kind of the double-edged sword, and maybe they'll get used to it as it goes, and then progress them toward a singlet, I guess. Anything on your side? Have you heard anything in the peer range here?
No, I mean, we kind of were in the same boat as Coach Ando's. We were kind of looking at new singlets, and then even ordering some more for our middle school as well. And I put it out to the athletes and asked them, what they wanted, and they said that they would rather stick with a traditional singlet rather than venture into the fight shorts or the spandex. And some of them said if they did, they'd rather go the spandex route with the compression top and the compression bottoms. Is they kind of see that as very similar. I remember seeing that actually quite a few years earlier, wrestling in Reno. I think it was Central Michigan had a fight short, or not a fight short, but a compression short bottom and a compression top that I always thought was kind of neat. But now they've got the rules with it's got to be like a 3-inch tail on it and everything. And if it gets a few kids out, it gets a few kids out. Not something that we've quite yet. I don't know. Like you said, if they're in the baggy shorts and stuff, I don't like that. You can get fingers caught in that, and those can come off and down. And I'd rather stick with more of the form-fitting stuff. And that's my interpretation of the rule, is that it's supposed to be more form-fitting. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out.
Okay, well, it should be interesting as the year goes, and it'll be a debatable topic. Okay, couple other things. Now, I like to talk about numbers in the room and how we get more wrestlers in there. How are your guys' numbers? That's how we'll start first this year. Compared to other years, up, down, the same? Or are you guys excelling? I know when I've been helping with some of the kids wrestling, and I bring some kids into South Dakota now. Pierre has a slew of kids when we go to these tournaments. I go into Aberdeen, and it looks just like as many Pierre wrestlers as Aberdeen wrestlers, or even to these small towns. If I'll go into Mobridge or even to Ipswich, there's always several Pierre wrestlers, venturing across the whole state from that first grade all the way up to fifth, sixth grade range that I've watched the last few years, and I see talent, unbelievable talent. And so, how are you guys' numbers and suggestions maybe for other coaches out there to get more kids? If it starts at the young level, or where's your focus on trying to catch them to get them in the sport? Start with you, Scott. What are you doing in this small town? How are you getting, because I know you're combined with several other communities. Do you guys join your kids' programs or anything like that?
Well, we joined Montrose probably 10, 12 years ago now, and we're in year 7 of the co-op in the high school. So it benefits us big time. We have 20 in the room this year, and we basically 18 to 22 in the last 5-6 years. But previously, before the co-op, we were all the way down to 9, 10 kids out, and that was it. So that benefited us. Now what's exciting is, I don't know what we'll do, but just today I had 5 kids, Bridgewater, Emory, Ethan, reach out. Hey, we don't have wrestling, but we want to bring our boys over. In our youth program, we let anybody in. Just that we're MCM, and that's, we got to wear our singlet until we change that. But I find it, I do the youth and the high school both, and it's more the 5th, 6th grade. That's our important range, because we lose a lot of kids in youth wrestling when we get to about, basically, it used to be 5th, 6th, now it's 3rd, 4th. They start playing basketball, doing both sports. And so when they get there that 5th, 6th grade, a lot of, like this year, I have, amazingly, I have 10 managers. They're all 5th and 6th graders. And if they're going to be a manager, basically, we kind of say, yep, no problem, but have you made your decision? And they're all like, yeah, we decided to wrestle.
So you pull them into the bigger program or the bigger family. You're helping them out with the varsity and doing all the other things. So they're helping out your little tournament and all the other stuff you do.
Yeah, they want to be part. They want to be part of the high school team. Is what they want to be. They can't compete, but they like to be managers and watch practice and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. Well, how about you and Pierre? I know your numbers have been good, and you're probably crossing your fingers it stays that way or knocking on wood. But you guys, I see great stuff still in the future. What you doing down there?
Yeah, our high school numbers are a little bit down this year. We graduated a really big senior class last year, and then on top of that, our junior class this year is just a really small population of a class anyway, and so our numbers in that class are a little low. So we're in our varsity room, we're about 30 kids right now. We start the year on average, just the last 5-6 years, we've started the year anywhere between 36 and 40. And when we're at 40, I was darn near tempted to cut kids, even though it was completely against my better judgment, because I knew that I really didn't want to kick kids out of the room. But like I said, we're at 30, and I would envision that all 30 of them stay, whereas, we probably had 3 or 4 fall off every year, the last couple. Then when we go to our middle school room, we've got a separate middle school coaching staff and middle school room. They've got another 30 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in that room right now. And we have one of the middle school kids pulled up into the high school room as he competes with us. But then we actually had our youth sign up on Monday night, and we've had right around 144 kids to 150 kids sign up, and we kind of blew our numbers out of the water. We signed up 168 kids, and I know we still have a few more that are interested and probably will sign up. So recruiting, it all starts down low. We had 168 kids, and that just absolutely blew my mind. And that's ultimately why we've, had the success that we've had. And then it's kind of cool because the success that we've had has turned around and got even those, younger kids interested. So, our numbers, I think they're looking good.
Well, that is awesome. Did you guys concentrate, sign the cards up as USA wrestlers or AAU still out of here?
No, when we sign up, we just basically include them in our club. They just pay our club fees, and then it's their responsibility if they want to sign up and get an AAU card versus a USA card. Both of those options are available for the kids depending on what they want to do. And being the primary sponsor in our state. I think most kids get the AAU card, and then you get a few that are interested, and we just don't have a ton of freestylers due to the fact that, our baseball program in our state, or in the Pierre area right now, is pretty big too. So about the time they get done with wrestling, in other states and places, they're moving on to freestyle and Greco. Our guys are moving on to baseball. And so, they're still competing. We don't get after them too bad about that.
Well, that's kind of interesting, because now it's been probably 10, 15 years when South Dakota really started to go on those Sundays, the younger kids before, Christmas. And that's really evolved. I mean, I've brought several kids into South Dakota to get that matches, before they're in that middle school season. So, no, I like what South Dakota's doing. We do not have any AAU wrestling in North Dakota, or very little. Some on the very western side that goes into Montana. Ours is pretty much as their secondary insurance, basically. There's still the USA Wrestling push, where they have probably 8 to 10 freestyle and Greco tournaments which require it. Other than that, they basically, there used to be a mandatory how many punches you had to have to go to so many before you could go to that tournament. So it's interesting. Still, the state tournaments are sponsored. When it comes to both, there's the folk style kids tournament and the freestyle state tournament. Both of those are USA Wrestling sponsored in our state. And and I don't think I'm wrong in that, but I pretty much have bought it for my kids every year, so that's how it goes too. Now, I guess I see that you guys are flourishing there. How about in your room when it came at now, Scott? Have you guys done your wrestle offs yet?
We're doing them next Monday, Tuesday. We have the luxury. We got rid of an early quad, and we don't have a tournament till like December 2nd. So we held off this year. Probably the latest. Usually I do them before Thanksgiving, but this year I pushed them back. And we have a lot of kids coming off football this year, and our football program has progressed so much in the last 5 years that I gotta give them a break, and then they want to not cut weight and stuff like that. So we held off this year. So we're gonna see how it turns out next Monday.
Okay. So when you talk about where are you at the very first weekend of there in December?
We're at the Del Rapids tournament, the top of the rock.
Okay. And where are you guys starting off in Pierre? What's your guys' first stuff coming up?
We go to a Watertown dual tournament that first weekend.
Okay, that first weekend of December also?
Yep.
Yeah, because we get a few of the South Dakota teams up here to Mandan, Rapid City Central, Stevens, and they come up to that early tournament in December up here. Then we go down to the Rapid City, what do you call it, the Invite or something, the big tournament in Rapid. So it's kind of interesting, because we also had last night, I think in the state of North Dakota, I think we had about 20 duels already before Thanksgiving. Last night, it seemed like, so it got going, and then we have the little break here with this weekend over Thanksgiving, and then guess what? We're on our way that first week in December. How about when it comes to talked with Scott a little bit about this last night. Now, the moving of regions and kind of placement of schools. What do you guys think of how South Dakota reevaluates where teams should be versus their numbers? I know that some teams moved again. For an example, Beersford, the state champs in Class B are now wrestling Class A this year. And their alignments. Now, your regions have changed over the last couple of years, not so much as some of the other ones, but any small opinions, you don't have to get controversial or nothing, but what do you guys think about the alignments coming up? So, because I think they evaluate every 2 years, I think, in South Dakota. Is that correct? Or do they do it yearly?
Yep, every 2 years. It changes every 2 years. The state's a little different. We used to be, I'll be honest with you, like Class B, we used to be eight in each region, whatever. They want to balance them out. And I know a lot of people are looking at it. They're like, what's going on? Some regions out west, they have like 15 teams, and our region has 9. But they're starting to look at the balance of, where the numbers, like teams are full, level of competition, stuff like that. And that's something different the state must be looking at. I've asked them, and they say they're not looking at it, but yet I will admit we have 9, some have 15.
Yeah, I noticed that too when I started lining my book up for the year, and I saw that huge list going out west in Region 3 and 4. Is it 3 and 4? 3 for sure. Because I know when you go, you take everything from Winter all the way up to Mobridge and everything west. That's a pretty big region. You start taking that, Phillip and yeah, they can't have their region at some of these schools because they're too small to even have it. How about the districts? Now, when they got rid of the districts, was there a big fight in that in South Dakota, getting rid of districts? Just a couple years ago.
A little bit. It's kind of me being an old coach. I was kind of torn in between because sometimes it was that kid that placed the district, got the region, kept them going. Now you're to the region. But I thought it was the best for South Dakota Class B because our numbers were down. Now they're coming back, but our numbers were down team-wise in number of participants. And I think we kind of like we call it super region now.
Okay. Now, for both of you, I had a question written down here. First for you, Scott. One thing that you pride yourself on that your team does better than anybody else in your region. Could it be that you have great leadership? Is it hard work? Is there anything that you pride that your team always does really well at? It could be even a move or anything that way.
Well, typically we try to pride ourselves, and it doesn't work out every year, but we know how to win that big match at the end. Typically, we sneak somebody in. We did it again last year. We snuck somebody into the state tournament. Probably shouldn't on paper. Everybody didn't think they were going to get there, but I don't know. We find a way to win at the end.
That is an awesome comment because I've always noticed that there's a couple teams that when I was coaching that you'd always say, man, when it came to that region tournament, the big match, they always found a way to get on top. That's a great quality to have. How about in peer? What is something that you guys pride yourself with?
Blake Gandel kind of stole mine. I was going to use when when the lights are the brightest and you're on the biggest stage that our kids have performed at their best. And I think that's something we've done both up at the Rotary and then at the state tournament, pushing as many kids into the finals and as many champs as we had. But one of the big things we pride ourselves on constantly is being good on our feet. Very hard to score on, and yet kids who are constantly looking to score on their feet and just wrestling that offensive style from their feet. And we spent a lot of time in practice on it. Wrestling kind of is what it is, but we definitely pride ourselves in just being absolutely tough on our feet.
That's a great thing too. I know those people that can always push the time, being in such great shape that no matter what happens, there's always coming at you. They're dangerous. And some kids, they're still high school kids. They panic when you have that person coming at you at all times, hand fighting and always pounding the head and coming inside and shooting. That kid who you beat early in the year 12-3 is now next thing it's an 8-6 match. And those kids worry come state. You see them a couple times or regions. So I've seen that out of the pure wrestlers too. You watch them in Aberdeen, or not in Aberdeen, but you watch them in Rapid, and then you see them later in the season. You're going, oh my, they just improved. But it's the aggressiveness. If I had to say a quality that I've watched pure the last couple of years is they're just relentless, and when it comes to being aggressive, they're not riding the side of the mat. They're controlling the middle of the mat. That's what I see. For McCook, what's interesting about you guys, it's the same thing. I see new kids all the time that I think that you improve your kids tremendously because I don't know anybody that can take a wrestler that probably hasn't wrestled much and then all of a sudden next thing you know you're seeing they're pressing for a spot to get into state. And I see that out of McCook every year. I don't know how you guys do that, Scott, but that's awesome quality also. Okay, next question. Top competition in your region for you guys, and then who you think is going to be the top competition for you guys come the state tournament. So first region for you, Scott.
Definitely Canton. They're reloading, and then they picked up that state champ from that used to live in their town from Beer Street Alcester Hudson, the March kid. So that's a lot of points they gain, and they're definitely year in year out they're a good team, and they'll be top of their region. And same thing with the state. They'll be the one to beat. And I don't know, there's a handful of teams statewide after that, even in our region. I think after Canton, there's about 5 of us that will be fighting for that second spot. So, and then statewide, yeah, Canton, and then I don't know, Webster. I don't know, they're a little down, but Roush he gets the troops rallied every year, and I look for Parkston. A lot of people don't look at Parkston, but they still got some good kids coming back. They're down on numbers, but their individuals are really good. I think they could score good too this year at state.
Okay. How about from out west? You don't see them quite as much, but some people are touting Mobridge to have a lot of decent wrestlers coming back, and Phillip, of course. They'll always find their few kids to find their way in the top half of the podium at least.
Yeah. Phillip, they got some from injuries and stuff that happened and kind of things. They're a little down from what I expected, but they'll be there. Then you got it right. I forgot Mobridge Pollock. I mean, last year I was telling my AD, we got to get them in our tournament. They want in our holiday tournament on 30th, because last year I think we wrestled 4 times, and I think we went 2-2 with Mobridge. But I was glad to see they did jump in the Howard tournament this year, so we will see them during the regular season.
Well, that's good. How about you, Pierre? I know you guys, you don't shy away from competition. What do you guys got region-wise for your top competition? And then let's take a look across the state too.
Aberdeen's going to be, pretty tough again. They graduated a bunch of good kids, but they've had a few kids who've been right there in the mix and kind of just waiting to make that next jump. And I think they're going to be real tough. Mitchell's going to be vastly improved. They've had such a strong middle school program the last couple of years that those kids are they're waiting to jump in that varsity lineup. So I think that they're going to definitely be improved. Huron's always right there. They find a way. Rumor is they had a couple transfers from, I think it was a Kansas area, a set of brothers. So kids I absolutely know nothing about, but I was told that they're, some pretty decent kids.
Not turkey,
and,
not turkey farmers. No, I know.
I don't know.
I know the coaches real well too, and they have that big turkey operation that goes out there by Huron, so I always give them a hard time about that. So don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah, and then Chamberlain's, they got a new wrestling room this year, and they've made huge improvements to their squad the last few years. So, you throw them into the mix with us, and I think we've, got a pretty good, solid 4 or 5 teams in our region.
You got a heavyweight that can match up against the big Chamberlain boy, big Hutch?
I don't know if we could find the surrounding states. I mean, we'd probably have to look to Minnesota with Gable Stevenson to find somebody who's going to match Hutmacher, but wait, and he's a big aggressive guy, and we'll give it everything we have.
Oh, definitely. It's good to hear, because big old John, he's not getting any bigger. He looked like he shrunk about 20 pounds, and I don't know if it was because he was wrestling him all the time, but he says that, he had to get back in shape so he could have someone to wrestle in the room. That's pretty. How much wrestling do you guys still do in the room? Or do you guys have some good assistants to help you out, or how much wrestling do you guys still do?
I've dropped off a lot. My assistants do most of it. I still demonstrate. And, last 2 years, I'll be honest with you. I just demonstrate. That's it. My wrestling is not part of Scott Handel anymore.
I pride myself in still going every day. So some way, shape, or form, I go every day. We've got a couple assistants in the room who also go every day. We've got Travis Heasley. He was a Miller wrestler back in the day. And then we've got Matt Thorson, who's in our room every day. He was a Groton wrestler. So between the 3 of us, we're going every day. We get a few other guys who, on our coaching staff that are in and out. We had Chad Urig in the room, and he'll be in and out, but he had a jaw surgery, and so he's on like 12 months, no contact, no wrestling, and that's killing him right now. So he's been avoiding the room at all costs just because he knows he'll get called out by the kids. I'm sure he'll be in, and when he can, he's normally scrapping with the guys every chance he gets.
Yeah, he's an excitable guy. Definitely, I've caught him a few times. Awesome. How about when it comes to, I was hearing your assistant coaches. Anyone else you guys want to shout out that's helping out the wrestling program right now? Like either assistants, administration, parents, anybody that's could really want to say, guess what? The program wouldn't be the same without them.
Oh, I lost one of our big supporters, Dan Swartos, but we lost him for a good reason. He's up out in Pier.
We got him.
He was a great supporter. I've done this. I talked to you last night, John. I've done it for 25 years, and it's not very often. I had 5 years of him as our superintendent, having that support, that background. So that helped a lot. But yeah, my two assistants, Josh Blinder and BJ Haver, do a great job, and helping in my youth program. I'm lucky. Yes, he has two talented boys, but Casey Remmers does a lot for our youth program.
That's awesome. You got to have that help. I tell you what, another thing, I was talking to another coach, and I'll let you speak in a second, Sean. I was talking to another coach on how much extra work that people don't see. That's, calling the kids now, texting the kids, making sure they're at practice or have their stuff, or making sure they're coming to wrestling again. And we'll talk about that here in a bit also. So how about you? Any shout outs there for you, Sean?
Oh, absolutely. We, outside of our assistants, probably one of the biggest reasons why Pier Wrestling is where it is Paul Turman. Paul's actually is our school board president. He works at South Dakota Board of Regents. I mean, he works in our community tirelessly. He's on about every community board you can be on. And the one thing that I've learned about Paul is everything he touches, turns to gold. He was our youth club president for a really long time, and absolutely was, pivotal in our youth club, being where it's at and the huge numbers that we have. Not to mention he's got a set of twin boys who've, definitely helped our program get to where it is. And he's got another one, coming who's a little younger as well.
Lincoln was
he's been huge in everything. In what?
I was trying to say, I was wondering if his boy was named after another South Dakota Lincoln by chance.
No, I don't think it was. No.
A little Mac.
Yeah, Paul's been huge even for just South Dakota wrestling. He's volunteered at our tournament forever. He was, one of the key guys, probably getting our South Dakota middle school state tournament going now. This will be its second year. Just in everything wrestling, that guy's been all over it, and he's so intelligent about the sport and just kind of about everything he does. And he's been amazing for what we've done. That's for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. One more big topic, and then we'll probably let you guys, in fact, why don't I do this? You guys, let's get away from the topic of wrestling just a little bit, so people get to know you guys a little bit. Either one of you guys have other hobbies besides wrestling? I'd like to, do you fish? Do you hunt? I know that Scott was talking about trying to get a deer one of these years. I don't know, or something, but yeah. I'd like some of the people out there to get to know you. I know everybody that know for about me just thinks wrestling for some reason, but want to know a little bit more about you guys. How about you, Scott? What else are you doing this besides your wrestling coaching?
Oh, one thing, I thrive on West River, East River deer hunting, and a lot of fishing. And my big thing that a lot of people don't know is every year, me and my brother-in-laws, we actually take my mother-in-law with us. And we go out West River turkey hunting. And something that we started about 9 years ago, and it's kind of our family tradition. So we enjoy that. And then I referee high school football. I kind of coached football 10 years, got out of it, and then I was missing it. So got my fix and started refereeing about 7 years ago. And that's probably the one thing ties me in. I had something happen this year. It was weird playoff game, and I flipped the old wrestling disc instead of a coin, whatever, for the choice. And this kid from Alcester Hudson, it was a playoff game, comes over and he goes, "That's the neatest thing I ever seen, Mr. Handel." And I said, "Yeah, you remember, you know me?" And he goes, "Yeah, you're the head wrestling coach." And I said, "Yeah." So, that's my hobbies: wrestling and hunting.
Okay, how about you, Sean? I'm a pretty busy guy. I got 3 young kids, so I get a lot in. I'm also defensive coordinator for a high school football team, so definitely stay busy, during that season. Outside of that, much like Scott, I try every year to go get an East River deer. I don't get West River deer because that lines up with the football championship game, but I need to get back over. I referenced my deer hunting last weekend to SDSU's duel versus Minnesota. I took a ton of shots and I didn't finish anything. So
that was my West River 2 weeks ago.
so I get to give it another try this next weekend. But other than that, like I said, baseball is kind of big in Pierre. My kid's been involved heavily in baseball, so I started coaching baseball as well during the summer and helped coaching his travel team and a couple of the youth teams in the city. And then that got me into this last summer. I started umpiring baseball as well at some of the higher levels. So just constantly sports, one to the next, to the next, to the next.
How old are your kids, if I may ask?
My oldest boy is 11, and then daughter is 9, and the youngest daughter is 6.
Awesome. I know how.
Or actually, no, son's 12. He's 12. He'll kick my butt.
Yeah,
he's trying it. He thinks he's tough.
I've got a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old boy, and I tell you what, they keep me busy. My oldest, he's a swimmer. They've been state champs every year, and I've tried to mess with him a little bit. He's 6 foot, maybe 6'2", about 190, and I always say he should have wrestled, and he says, no, swimming's it. So it's how it goes. And then I've got a 12-year-old that loves it, all sports, and so I help coach everything too: football, wrestling. I've done the club thing for about ever, baseball, whatever it takes for our kids. I guess I think you guys are all the same way. Once you're a teacher and coach, you kind of make it your whole life with your family and everything else too. Okay, one more question now. As it goes, if you guys wanted to see somebody else on here in the state, who in South Dakota you'd like you guys listen to if you came back on here? I'm gonna just take my notes as you're going too, because when I sent out my questionnaire, you guys both had replied for the book and said yes, it'd be a great thing to do, and I do appreciate it. I've got probably about another 10, 12 that are wanting to get on too, but I know that both you guys have just a passion for the sport and have had great successes. Is there anybody that you'd like to see nationally? I do have a few connections here and there, or in the statewise. They'd like to see if there's a referee. I'd like to get one of the refs on here. Probably, I don't know which one you guys would like, old Roach or somebody. I'll get somebody on here. Just
sorry.
That's okay. Get comfortable. Switch around. No, just suggestions. Anything you'd like to see or happen to watch or push. A couple things I'd like to do is kind of do a wrap-up show on Sunday. I might come on myself and look at tournament results, and just kind of, so people can see. I know that they do rankings. I used to be involved in the South Dakota stuff, but I just don't get down there enough and do the rankings, so I just help publish what they get. And I know that you guys, probably don't watch the rankings as much as probably parents do, of course. But fire away if you have any suggestions.
I know South Dakota, they're kind of holding off till after the first week this year. And I always tell my kids rankings don't mean nothing. It all counts at the end. But I have to admit, yeah, I'm probably as bad as everybody else. I got to look at them every week. So.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, we look at rankings a little bit here and there. I use it more as a motivator a lot of the times. Know a few of the guys who are involved in the rankings, so I like to place phone calls and make sure that they know my detest for what they've got going on sometimes. But they just tell me, "Well, tell your kids to win, take care of itself." So I just relay the message.
Well, that's pretty cool. No, seriously, if nothing else, just email me if you guys ever need anything. I don't know. I don't have too many other things. How about one more thing to talk about? How about the progress in South Dakota with women's wrestling? It's kind of a subject that we talked about last week by having one of the USA head wrestling coaches there for, our USA wrestling team, nationals, Olympics, all the other stuff. Terry Steiner. You guys have had some girls, in fact, some pretty good success from this out of the state of South Dakota. In fact. You've had a state placer. North Dakota, that hasn't happened yet. anything you want to say? How do you guys actually in your clubs have some girls wrestling right now or anything? How about there in Pierre?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple. We haven't had a lot. My daughter was the only one there for a while. She wanted to give it a shot. So, I let her, and I mean, she did her thing and won a few and lost a few, and I mean, had some success, but wasn't ultimately something that she stuck with. But I'd like to see women's wrestling progress as a whole. I think we're going to probably lag behind in South Dakota with participation, just because the majority of our girls are already doing something. They're either playing basketball or they're playing indoor soccer, get swimmers and stuff like that. So I mean, there's already avenues for them, but I'd like to see it progress. I'd like to see. We had a couple high school girls talk about coming out and then never really pulled the trigger. I think a couple of them would have probably had some success. I don't know the success of Arana Heaton, but I mean, we had some pretty tough, aggressive girls that I think could have gave it a run.
Yeah, good. McCook, you got to have wrestling moms out there that want to wrestle.
All the time, but no, we actually same thing. Last year, my daughter decided to do it at 6 years old and took a shot at it. I thought she kind of liked it, but I'll be honest with you, she keeps telling me, she just walked through here and she goes, "I'm not wrestling this year, Dad. I'm taking 1 year off." And I'm like, I have high school kids that tried to tell me that, but no, I see it progressing big time. I think eventually, just like everything changes in the world, South Dakota's going to have girls high school wrestling eventually.
Okay. How about this? Do you guys still have cheerleaders? Now in North Dakota, we probably only have half a dozen teams in the whole state that even have cheerleaders anymore. Do you guys have cheerleaders, and do they go on the road if you do? I thought I saw Pierre having some still.
No, Pierre hasn't had any for quite a while. Kind of our whole ESD for the most part got rid of cheerleaders. I mean, you'll see what I think Rapid City Stevens and Sturgis maybe have them at state tournament along with Harrisburg, but a while. I know Steve Kessler used to always say that you had to have wrestling cheerleaders because wrestling cheerleaders then had little wrestlers and managers, and if you could throw more wrestling, possible potential wrestling moms out there in the future, then you'd get more. But it's just something we haven't had. They don't travel with us, and I know that was a lot of the issue was getting the cheerleaders to and from where they were supposed to be going, and then sticking that responsibility on the coach as well, along with supervising his wrestlers. He was supposed to supervise the cheerleaders. And then we were also trying to get kids on the bus, and then the cheerleaders were taking seats away from kids who, had the potential to go on the bus. So, our cheerleaders kind of went to the wayside. I wish there was a way. I wish we could have it. It adds, a neat aspect and atmosphere, to what you're doing. But, ultimately what it was doing kind of at the time where we were at with budgets and stuff is it was taking away opportunities from the wrestlers and putting more stress and strain on the coach. So I'm kind of glad we did go the way we did, though.
Okay. How about dual schedule wise? It's one of the things that I've thought about. Some of the smaller towns have gotten rid of a lot of their duels, and they just go weekend wrestling to tournaments and stuff. How's the health of the duels, and do you think they'd ever bring back a state tournament in duels in South Dakota again?
Well, we tried it. We went the last couple of years looking at it, and I thought we had it voted through, but it did not pass. We are the other way around our area. Duels have become big for us now. Kids are tired of being gone every Saturday. So we're trying to revamp. At MCM, we do a lot of tournaments, but we have a fair amount of quads. And whenever I lose a tournament, I've kind of, 2 years ago, I put in a extra quad instead. So we go 8 and 7 the other way.
Okay. Now South Dakota varies in a couple of rules. How about there in Pierre? What's your dual schedule like?
Well, we're in the ESD conference, and so we're mandated to dual all of our ESD, all of our ESD schools, so we can come up with a dual champion. So we're mandated to do that. And there for a while they were locked in. It had to be a single duel. It couldn't be a try or quad and everything, and they've kind of loosened up on that with the adding of Harrisburg into our ESD. So I mean, we do still get a fair share of duels. Plus, I mean, we go to Watertown dual tournament. Our East West is a dual tournament format that we go to. So you know, I think of, you know, balancing our tournaments. You know, we don't get an overabundance match, and then we went to the, I mean, those were all duels as well. So we like our duels. You know, I probably wasn't one that was in huge favor of our dual state tournament just because of the format and stuff. I think the overall concept of it is definitely something that I want us to, as a state, keep pursuing and looking into, because I think it's huge for us as a sport to continue to grow, to get that back. We just got to find the right format and everything to get it done and pull the trigger. And I think it'd be huge for our state to actually, you know, finally get it done and back in.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys know how the North Dakota system works, but we have had a state dual tournament every year, even when the time when South Dakota had it. But they changed our format to the state tournament being 3 days, and that's maybe why South Dakota hasn't done it a lot. But when they did it originally, they tried to do all those duels on Thursday, and that format didn't fly. But ours, the way they do it is they open up with a duel on Thursday and then do the first round of wrestling, and then one round of wrestlebacks. No one loses. Nobody loses out the first day of the state wrestling tournament. Then they'll have the semis, or the basically of the duel. Then Thursday. Then Friday, they will have the finals Friday night. So basically, you've got 2 big matches possible for some of these kids, sometimes wrestling their own guys, because they've also got the semis Friday night of the individual. So everybody wrestles that's in the duel 2 matches, and in the individual, you know, how does it? Yeah, and 1 in the individual. It's all. So there's 3 matches is the max they'll have. So they don't go overboard with matches. In fact, it gets stretched out for some of these kids that wrestle, you know, 5 matches in the tournament single day, where they spread this out over 3 days. But it's huge. Friday night is the big night in North Dakota, where when I come down to South Dakota, that Saturday morning 10 o'clock round, when people are making the finals, seems to be the most exciting round when I go there. That Friday night is huge. It's both semifinals and the dual finals. So you got your semifinal individual match first, and then after that, they clear the mats and the stands get packed then for all of the finals, because they have the final duel and the 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th in both classes. So it gets crazy. How about when it comes to South Dakota? What do you guys think about having the one venue now where you have both Class A and Class B together? Now, me being as a wrestling fan, I love it, but yet at times I hate it because I miss matches. You know, I want to see a certain match, and all of a sudden I get caught up watching somebody else, and oh, geez, I missed that one because there's so many matches happening. What do you guys feel about the one venue so far?
I don't mind it. I guess the only thing I did find out is I thought I was going to watch all these Class A matches. I was excited to see, but I still find myself focused on the B. But when there is a boring match, it is nice to look over. The only thing is I hope that they're looking at in the future is I would like to see like every 2-3 years that we split. And like, I know for us in Class B, we'd go up to Aberdeen or something for because they do run a great tournament for us up there on the Class B side.
Yep, Aberdeen not having a state tournament really hurts that community. It does. And how about you? I know you've done both Class A and Class B. We talked about it earlier. Tell us how you're feeling about how you like the state tournament one venue.
Yeah, I really like them together, and you know, I like Andal. I mean, I haven't gotten to watch a ton of B matches because, you know, we've had so many wrestlers in, and, you know, trying to scout wrestlers along with taking care of your wrestlers. I haven't gotten to watch a ton, you know, but I have made it a point to, you know, especially from like Elk Point, or, you know, even from, you know, kind of my hometown in the Bonham area, I've made it a point to watch a lot of those guys. You know, if I had, I've really enjoyed it. Also getting around all the other B coaches that, you know, I've known pretty much my whole life was nice to be around and to see their programs and their fans. And it was great, I think, for a lot of the A fans to see kind of the B atmosphere. I mean, those finals have been pretty electric the last couple of years, you know, and I think they probably got a little bit of tweaking on kind of how we're running our finals, maybe a little bit to showcase and to marquee a little bit. But the overall atmosphere has been amazing, and so I've really enjoyed it.
That's pretty cool. Now here's North Dakota runs their finals. I wish they would do it individual. I know real fans want to see them both. We have both finals, Class A and Class B, going at the same time. They get all the placings done and before the finals come about. In South Dakota, is that the same thing they've been doing? Explain to people out there, because I know when I go on, they have all their, if you go online and watch it, you have all these matches going at once also.
Yeah, the finals are together, same time, championship.
Okay. Yeah. So that's one thing that we kind of debated and I tried to bring up. How are coaches involved in the nominations of people getting into the Hall of Fame in South Dakota? Because it's kind of interesting because I don't hear enough on who gets in until I see all those people getting their awards at the state wrestling tournament there. So tell me a little bit more how that's taken care of in South Dakota.
They're nominated. I'm actually just 2 years ago got on the board, Coach Association board, and we meet every July, and that's when we select who's gonna get in the Hall of Fame. And
what is your base criteria? Is there a certain categories that they fill within, if they're a contributor, if they're a coach, if they're a wrestler, or is there a max number? Is there a certain vote percentage they have to get? Clear that up for me.
No vote percentage, just we do coaches and former wrestlers, contributors, athletic directors, even officials. Are going to our Wrestling Hall of Fame. So.
Okay, well, what is there a voting process? Tell me how that works.
Nomination. They nominate, and like this last 2 years, usually throw. I'll be honest with you, we try to keep it somewhat like 5A, 5B, but there's no set number, and we go through it. We kind of have everybody reads whoever got nominated. We read what their credentials are, and then the board decides if they get in or not.
Okay. So see, in North Dakota, there's a vote process, and they got to get 2/3 of the votes from the coaches, and it's kind of crazy at times. And then they'll knock it down to make sure they get so many of them in. Let's say everybody gets voted, and then nobody would get in. They don't believe in that, so they'll eliminate until they get a certain number in. But both the Class B and Class A are separated when it comes to getting people into the Hall of Fame from the Coaches Association. So is that still that way, or is the board both for Class A, Class B?
Board votes for both, but like I said, they try to. At least since the 2 years I've been involved, it's trying to keep it balanced if possible.
Okay. Do you know anybody in South Dakota that's nominated in both states, North Dakota and South Dakota?
Well, I don't know. You have that Standing Rock coach, Dave Rao. He wrestled back when I did, and of course, he's in the Hall of Fame down here.
Okay. Well, I do have one. That's kind of why I said it. Wayne Shear is in both North Dakota and South Dakota. From Wagner, head coach.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yep. He wrestled for my dad actually in Napoleon, North Dakota, and so he was several times state champion here, and then when he went down to Wagner, he got there as a coach too. So he's in the Hall of Fame in both states. Just for a little trivial knowledge for you.
That's a good one.
By the way, I didn't know he was in North Dakota. I remember him being in Wagner, but
yep. And so, but other than that, guys, anything else you guys want to talk about wrestling wise? If not, we'll call it a night, and then we'll decide to get together sometime else. I do appreciate all the conversation we can have, and just give support to wrestling out there any way we can, promote it, and we can do. Anything else you guys want to bring up? Questions for me?
No, I just appreciate what you do with this coverage here, especially your magazine. I know our kids, and like we were talking last night, you got some sponsors from Salem. That's amazing, and that because they're all proud of it, and we appreciate the coverage.
Well, thank you. And an update for people getting their books and stuff that's coming out. In fact, went to the printer, and they do what's called perfect binding in Minneapolis, because I went to a glossy cover. It takes a little bit more process, and they actually sent it out, and it should be back to me. I was hoping the end of this week or beginning of next, so that everybody can have it by that first weekend there in December. So pretty cool. How about you there, Sean? Anything else you want to bring up?
No, just again, I'll echo the thanks. The website back from its, induction 15 years ago, it almost seems like now. I mean, that was huge for getting wrestling and information out there. It kind of beat John Gilman in the state, sending kids to the photocopy machine with all the results from, and then mailing them to the coaches and expecting them to send them money for all the results in the Gilman News. But it's absolutely been great for our sport, and kind of took that avenue on, and you've seen others pop up, and just the promoting of our sport and anything we can do to get our passion out there is appreciate it.
That's pretty good. Well, we give a shout out to John Gilman, because without him, I probably wouldn't have got the idea of doing it, because in Mobridge, I ordered his newsletter type thing, and I decided to actually make, let's say when I was coaching there, just a team pamphlet. Always took pictures, you name it, and get their results. And then when I changed schools, I moved from Mobridge to a school teaching without wrestling. And I was just dying without it, and decided, guess what? I think I could do this. I could actually put a book together, and took my summer, instead of putting up manufactured housing or doing a summer job as a teacher, I went out and tried to sell some ads. And since then, this is, I've got 25 books that have come out since. First year I published it in South Dakota was 2003, but I started in North Dakota in 99. So it's been going a little while. Sometimes I think it's a big headache, but when I think about just getting wrestling some promotion, and it's never for the money, it's never a big money maker out there. If people have ever thought that with Dakota Grappler, it's definitely not that. I do bare minimum. I spend everything that I can on best publishing, and give wrestling whatever I can back, because it's given me so much, honestly. So everybody out there, I hope you guys enjoyed this show tonight. This is, again, I want to thank the coaches. We'll get them involved again, and I'll have more out there next week, next Wednesday. Going to try to do a little wrap up on results and other live things. Catch us on Facebook, Dakota Grappler. Try to look that up. Join, follow, whatever you have to do. I do have a Twitter account where I will put some stuff out there. You can go live video on there. I did try a little live video last night for Bismarck High on Facebook, so I'll probably do some live events. I will be getting down into South Dakota that second weekend of December. I'm going to try to hit a ton of tournaments. First weekend, I'll be in Mandan doing the finals there live. And so if somebody wants me to maybe even do a duel or do anything like that and try to get it live, I can come down probably some weekend, or you name it. I'll try to travel. I know I've got a boy that wrestles too. So, and he's just middle school. He's a 7th grader. So I won't miss his events, but I'll get out there all I can. So if you guys ever need anything, feel free to contact me. Just go into Dakota Grappler, message me, and I'll see what I can do for you and for wrestling. Hey guys, thanks again. And then I will shut down the broadcast, and then you guys can stay on if you want for a couple seconds.
All right.
Thanks, guys.